Legends can be forged in unlikely places. This legend begins in the gray-gripped land of Samaria, at a remote fortress known as Vernarium. Today on the Comic Book Report, Conan the Barbarian, bound in black stone. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're going to delve into the world of Conan the Barbarian with a recent run that came out by way of Titan Comics' Heroic Signature. This is the Volume 1 of the Jim Zub Conan run, starting with this storyline bound in black stone. Admittedly, my only knowledge of Conan the Barbarian begins and ends with that first omnibus collecting the original stuff back from I think the 70s, but I was enjoying that run so much I thought it'd be fun to also try out one of the more modern runs, and thanks to the people at Titan Comics for sending this over, I'm able to review it for all of you. So with that, let's actually go ahead and dive into today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Jim Zub and illustrated by Roberto de la Torre. The issues in this collection were published by Titan Comics' Heroic Signature beginning in 2023. As far as what this volume collects, it includes Conan the Barbarian, the 2023 series, issues 1 through 4, and Free Comic Book Day 2023. Finally, this is a standard size trade paperback with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 128 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. I'd also like to note a mature content warning. There are a couple brief scenes of sexuality and nudity in this volume, along with graphic, detailed violence. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at the cover of that trade paperback from Titan Comics. This is Conan the Barbarian, Volume 1, bound in black stone. We have this grim-looking depiction of Conan right on the front. Definitely evocative and interesting. You know he's just ready for action. I have to admit, I didn't know what to expect exactly from a modern Conan story, but I think this really honored the past traditions of this franchise in some meaningful ways, and I'll get to that in a moment. Next, we'll take a look at that spine. We have the Volume 1 up top there, Conan the Barbarian, kind of the title of this volume, along with the creators and the publishers down below. It's a pretty straightforward spine design, but I found it had all the information I needed. It looks crisp on the bookcase. I'll actually show it next to the Volume 2, so you can just see an example of the uniformity we have with these trade paperbacks. Really good stuff. On the back of the trade paperback, we have this awesome image of Conan riding a horse, some blurbs, some accolades about this collection, pricing information, things like that. Nothing too groundbreaking with this back cover, but I do love that big splash of art we get. I think that's a welcome addition / surprise for this trade paperback, and it gives you a good idea of some of the interior art you can expect. And now for all you prospective collectors out there, just a quick look at this paperback's binding. As I mentioned, like just about every paperback I've ever seen, this is a glued binding. We do have a little bit of gutter loss, but I found it to be pretty minimal. It lays down fairly well, and for me, there's no real complaints on the binding here, but I thought I'd give everyone a quick look at it. Okay, now that we've gone over the build of the book and the binding, I thought I'd do that quick side-by-side with the Volume 2 in this Jim Zub run. This is Volume 2 of Conan the Barbarian, Thrice Marked for Death. I do plan on reviewing this title as well on the channel, but I do this side-by-side just so you can see what the first couple volumes in this line look like. I'll show you the spines as well, just so you can get an appreciation for the uniformity. Like I said, it looks really crisp and clean on the bookcase. Well done, Titan Comics. Okay, now that the comparison shot is done, we can go ahead and dive into this trade paperback proper. Okay, and as we make our way into the trade paperback today, we have the title page, we have a publication information page, kind of the creator breakdown, but we also have a really cool 2-page map of the Hyborian Age when Conan the Barbarian is set to take place. This is a great kind of fantasy style map we'd get in a lot of fantasy literature. I love the detail and intentionality that went into this map. I really do think it's a breathtaking work of art. After that, we have a brief little prologue kind of essay, and then we jump dive into kind of the prologue material that's just a couple pages long. After that, we go right into the main issues in this Conan run. And as we actually start the run of Conan the Barbarian, I will say that this run is very accessible to new readers. And this volume in particular, though it does have some pretty brutal scenes of violence, the sexuality nudity content in this volume is fairly light. It was enough though that I did cut it out of this video, so you won't be seeing that in this review. Anyway, as we dive in, we have Conan the Barbarian getting into battle, kind of these early wars. It really establishes this character as, yes, a brutal barbarian warrior. And again, you don't really need to know much backstory whatsoever for this character. You dive right in, you find that he is a warrior, and he's just kind of on his adventures. What I liked about this Conan run too is there's a couple nods to that original run from Roy Thomas on Conan the Barbarian with him and Barry Windsor Smith. We even have this panel that kind of shows a couple images of his early adventures. Most notably for me was the brief glimpse, kind of a cameo appearance of that green elephant alien creature. Again, more on that when I review the first omnibus. All that to say, I really do think that these comic creators were really intending to honor the legacy of Conan's comic book history, as well as the history of Howard, who created Conan. But I really liked seeing that. Those little flourishes really help ground this book back to its roots in many ways, while also serving as kind of an Easter egg. You know, I think that people that just go in totally blind to this series won't be missing anything, but longer term fans or someone that's read some of the original stuff will appreciate those little nods. I also really love the art we have in this volume 1 from Torre. I think it really fits this material quite well. There is something classic about this art style. It doesn't have the same degree of polish I see with a lot of modern artists these days, especially from the big two publishers. It has a bit of grit to it, a bit of a sketchy quality that adds to the just immersion in this world. It feels like a throwback. Like if I saw these comics coming out in the 70s or 80s, just from the art standpoint, I'd kind of believe it. It just has this kind of rugged feel to it, and again, it's pitch perfect for this world. One of the things I like about Conan that I'm finding in that original year's omnibus is that this is a really good kind of flagship character for the sword and sorcery kind of subgenre within fantasy literature. It's supposed to be at kind of a bygone time or era in the world. We have different kinds of magics and kind of supernatural happenings in the midst of just kind of a brutal hack and slash kind of main character. I think that these fantastical elements really help elevate this for me. I like that there is kind of a bordering on the paranormal in a lot of Conan's adventures, and I'm finding that back in his original stuff and in these pages. But looking at this, what is Bound in Blackstone all about? What is the story of this collection? Well, in addition to introducing us or reintroducing us to the character of Conan the Barbarian, we have this narrative of basically Conan stumbles into this small town, into this bar, and basically shortly after that, we have someone coming in from the forest saying, they're coming, and we have this kind of horde of almost zombie-looking warriors coming to just decimate these villages. We have this kind of mysterious woman from a kind of warring or other tribe that Conan's people are kind of at war with or were, and basically she seems to know a little bit more about these creatures, saying they're kind of a scourge that are just kind of decimating the land, and they're spreading, and they all seem to be coming or going toward this one direction. Conan realizes that they might be heading homeward, and so he wants to kind of regroup, find his people. He takes this woman as sort of an ally, and they try to team up to stop these kind of almost zombified warriors. He finds out before too long, though, that his native people have been imprisoned by this group of kind of weird, again, kind of zombie warriors, and they all seem to be gathered in this weird kind of tower, this black, dark tower made of black stone, you could say. And this is where we get a lot of fun plot building. We basically have this group of weird cultists that are kind of channeling this energy, and they basically fall into this weird cursed lake, and they come out, these kind of zombified warriors. A lot of his own people that are imprisoned or caged, he basically stirs them up with a warrior zeal and releases them to try to fight off the forces here. And it's a really, really fun book. We have his flirtation with this woman ally who herself is such an asset to kind of helping free these people and kind of break through this horrible dark tower. But I really like it. A ton of action here. I really like as he tries to kind of stir up his countrymen back to their old kind of warrior selves. I thought that that was a really effective scene. And ultimately, this book really culminates with him taking on the horde of zombies and kind of the cultists. He falls into the Forbidden Lake, but has the power, maybe because of a mythical sword, to basically escape the curse at this point. He breaks through, and ultimately the structure kind of begins to cave in. His people are freed for the most part, and there's nothing much left of this Blackstone Tower other than a small remnant, which unbeknownst to him kind of makes it out of the wreckage. And that's really the overall kind of plot overview for this book. Of course, I'm doing a bird's eye overview. There's a lot more to that here than just what I've said, but that gives you kind of feel for Bound in Black Stone. Like I said, as you've seen throughout, the art is absolutely impeccable, and it is a really fun reintroduction to this character. At the back of the trade paperback, we do have a collection of extras, which I was happy to see. We have a little bit of an essay. We have a variant cover art gallery in the form of a lot of small thumbnails. Would have loved to see these reproduced at a bigger scale just to get a better eye on some of them, but still really happy they included this in some form. We have a little bit of character modeling, some solicits for other books, and that really is the end of this first volume of Conan the Barbarian by Jim Zub. And now I think all that's left to do is to give this book a grade. For successfully revamping the Conan the Barbarian franchise while retaining what makes this character so enduring and interesting, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Conan the Barbarian Volume 1 Bound in Black Stone by Jim Zub a B+. While this was a bit more explicit than my general taste, I have to admit it was a really fun ride. The art from Torre is absolutely gorgeous and absolutely sets me in this world of Conan the Barbarian. I thought the art absolutely reflected the narrative, and I really had a blast breezing through this first storyline. I thought it was a great introduction for new readers, a reintroduction to someone revisiting this character, and I thought that it was a really impressive take on a character that's now been around for decades upon decades. But let me know what you think. Have you been reading Titan Comics Conan the Barbarian recently? I'd love to get your feedback as well. Again, a special thank you to those at Titan Comics for sending over this review copy in exchange for an honest review. And thanks to all of you for making it this far and sticking along for the ride. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, that comment we mentioned, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks everyone, and have a good one.